this notion that, you know, the X is spreading all this harmful content. We've had a lot of talk since the Southport attacks and the riots about the responsibility of social media, and it's not just Twitter, X, whichever we're calling it this week. There's other social media, rather less policed, you'd say. But somehow social media is responsible for someone grabbing a brick and lobbing it at a police officer, or you know, or setting fire to a van, or running amok. I mean, do you think social media companies are responsible for that, or people's tweets, even politicians? Nigel Farage, Reform UK leader, has been accused of being responsible.
I mean, it's all part of a ridiculous moral panic, in my view. I mean, anyone would think we never had riots before social media was invented. People will always find ways of communicating with each other if that's what they want to do. Now, I think a lot of these riots were criminal in nature, and
a lot of the people who got convicted so far have actually got a string of offences.
Absolutely,
already.
And I have no difficulty in the authorities clamping down on violence and some of the things we've seen on our streets. But what this is being used as an excuse for, or it seems to me it's being used as an excuse for, is to extend speech controls on social media and elsewhere, and that is a real problem because we have quite extensive speech controls already in this country. And there, as we've seen, there have been a few cases of them being used in this way. I don't want to see them go any further.
I'd like them to be rolled back. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And especially, it's one thing, isn't it? I'm sure we'd all agree, any sane person would agree, that people who, you know, get violence or incite violence or threaten violence to people, behave in that intimidating way in public, or write violent threats on social media, that they should be prosecuted.
Of course.
But other people who have just simply, you know, passed on information that turned out to be wrong, you know, businesswoman Bernie Spofforth, I've mentioned her on all three shows so far this week, are also, you know, facing prison terms.
It's a criminal offence in this country under the Online Safety Act to make a false communication. That's the law that we have passed. So the only question
by the way, the Conservative government that you supported.
I know, I opposed that bill, and many of us did, but unfortunately it went
But hold
through.
on, why aren't we able to prosecute the government for all the lies? Look, you resigned from Boris Johnson's government over lockdown and over, you know, various other issues that you were unhappy about. We were told numerous lies. I mean, and I don't mean we didn't know at the time things about COVID and about masks and lockdowns and things like that. I don't mean, well, now we know better. I mean, at the time, they made statements that they knew. We've seen from Matt Hancock's WhatsApps that they knew were not evidence-based, they knew were untrue, and they did it anyway. Why are none of those people prosecuted?
Well, this illustrates exactly why it's so dangerous, that most of the misinformation, as far as I can see in our public debate, comes from the government, and we saw a lot of it, or from the public authorities, not from individuals.
Keir Starmer tells us that some women have penises.
Yeah,
I mean,
all this sort of stuff.
That's a blatant piece of disinformation.
The Chinese lab leak, you know, whether the vaccines prevented transmission or not. There are lots of cases of things where it turned the original party line turned out to be wrong, and that's why it's so dangerous.
But they knew it was wrong. No,